On this episode of The Art of Action Figures, we're taking a look at the Season 3 Mandalorian and Grogu set from Tamashii Nation's SH Figuarts. Now, here at the end of 2023, the market for 1/12 scale Mandalorian and Grogu figures is quite hot. In addition to the updated Season 3 version from Figuarts here, Mafex is also due to put out a version 2 of their Mandalorian and Grogu set sometime in the next few months. And Hasbro's Star Wars Black Series is also going to be coming out with a fully retooled Mandalorian figure, at least, in, I think, the Book of Boba Fett line, and that figure is called the Glavish Ringworld Mandalorian. And while both of those do look very good, what sold me on this set is how thoughtfully designed the Grogu figure is. I am so glad that Figuarts went to the lengths that they did to represent just how expressive this character is in the series. He's not an afterthought figurine. He's not a head in a bag. Very refreshing to see the creativity that Figuarts was able to put into this. There are also some really nice updates to Mando. I like the inclusion of the wired cape. I think makes a huge difference and just adds a whole new dimension to his posability. There are also some really nice build improvements in some of the joints on this guy over the previous Mandos. And personally, I'm satisfied with the range of accessories here. There are some omissions that you might be looking for that you won't find here, so we'll talk about those. But first, let's take a look at the packaging. The packaging design is pretty standard here for Star Wars SH Figuarts. However, it is an extra wide box to accommodate this extra wide tray. To give you an idea, here is the Mandalorian Luke. And you can see this Mando and Grogu pack is about twice as wide, or maybe a little bit more. They are, thankfully, the same height and about the same thickness, so they arrange nicely on a shelf in this sort of presentation. On the front, we have this sort of like gold overlay lettering, which is pretty hard to read, to be honest. So, Star Wars, The Mandalorian, SH Figuarts, some stuff about SH Figuarts, and then you can see the name of the characters there. The Mandalorian and Grogu, interesting they keep calling him the Mandalorian even though he has a name. Bandai, Tamashii Nations, designed by Tamashii Nations in Japan, Bandai Spirits made in China. On the left-hand side, we have just some more Star Wars branding, name of the character, Tamashii Nations holographic quality seal there, and then some sort of like techie gold foil looking design. On the right side, there's the character portrait, and this again matches up nicely with the other Star Wars SH Figuarts. I do wish the portrait here included Grogu. A bit of a miss on that, in my opinion, but got your SH Figuarts Star Wars Disney Lucasfilm branding. And then, let's see, around the top, pretty similar to the left-hand side, not too exciting. Around the bottom, then on the back, where things get interesting, of course, you have your standard warning: choking hazard, small parts, not for children under 3 years, and intended for ages 15 and up. We have copies of the promotional photos that were used for this figure. You can see Mando two-handed pose holding the Darksaber, holding his repeater rifle. What's this thing called? And Grogu hanging out by his leg in a classic small person move. The fully covered pram. The pram with the top down, cruising along. Grogu hanging out on the floor. And then we talked about Mando with the cloth wire cape. Mando holding a cylinder with the living water sample from the Mines of Mandalore. Spoilers for Season 3. Holding the Darksaber and his blaster. and then finally flying away with the jetpack. This is actually an image of the figure with some digital effects applied here to the jetpack and the blaster, but there are some jetpack effects included with this set. Now, breaking him out of this box, he has kind of the same problem as the SH Figuarts Vader, where because of the cloth cape, the tray lid doesn't completely close, but remaining on the inside of the box, we have this really nice Grogu and Mando up in the sky. Very cute. And something that is actually going to come in quite handy here for this figure, the all-important instructions. These are also available digitally on Tamashii Nation's website, so you can take a look at that. I think there's a QR code in here that will take you to it. You can also just search Tamashii Nation's instruction manuals, and you should be able to find it that way. So the reason I say this is important is because there are very specific molded hands for different accessories. For example, you only want to use hand I for the blaster and hand G for the rifle. They have similar appearance but slightly different shape, one with a wider grip. This also points out where you want to watch out for paint rub and tells you what the heck to do with this little loopy. These two images here suggest to me that the cape is removable. We'll see if it actually is or if it's pinned under the breastplate. The Grogu is pretty straightforward, just warning that the pram is made of a harder plastic that's a bit delicate around the pins especially. Shows you how to assemble the stand that holds the pram, and that's about it. Now, I've already had a good long read of those, so if you are confused about something, go ahead and take a look at them. Like I said, they're available online, and you can check them out digitally even before you purchase the product, so that's always nice. If you're curious about what the figure comes with, for example, that's one way you could kind of investigate a little bit, other than this review, of course, but sometimes there aren't a ton of reviews to reference, so. Now, as you can tell from outside the box already, the tray on the inside is about twice the width of your ordinary tray, and if I'm honest, a little bit overwhelming in a couple of ways. Number one, just the number of small bits that can fly out when you open the tray. I think they've just tried to cram too much into one tray here. I think a double layered tray would have been a better option, maybe. Put some of the weapons and effects into a second layer. That would also make storage a bit easier for me, so it wouldn't stick out so far from the other boxes on the shelf. And the last note, which is kind of unusual for Figuarts, but the organization of the tray is a little bit odd in that parts are not close to the things that they're related to. So for example, the blast effects for the jetpack are over here, but the jetpack's up here. Cycler rifle here, but the parts to store it are up here. But makes it a little bit hard to go over the accessories in a sensible way, but we'll do our best. Now, starting from the left, we do have the cycler rifle for Mando, his blaster, the seated version of Grogu with the open mouth, sort of smiling expression, and then we have 6 pairs of hands, including the fists. We have a single right hand meant for igniting the darksaber, and then another single small circle grip right hand meant for holding the water of life canister. And then as far as the pairs, we have a pair of larger circle gripping hands for the darksaber, pair of small trigger finger hands for the blaster, relaxed hands, 2 different pairs, and larger trigger finger hands meant for the rifle. The rocket effects for the jetpack, Mando himself, the standing body for Grogu with the closed mouth head, the jetpack for Mando, the Darksaber hilt, the open top for the pram with the closed top already attached, the strap that connects to the bandolier and has a swappable midsection for the rifle to be stored, a belt loop for storing the rifle on his back. The nose of the rifle kind of goes through this loop, the water of life canister, and the ignited Darksaber. And then around the back, there's one last accessory, and it is taped to the back here. It's the display stand for the pram. All right, now let's go ahead and do our best to crack this tray open without exploding the accessories all over the place. I usually go at it from the four corners first. And then you kind of got to work your way from the middle out. And I think like opening it evenly in this way gives you the best chance of not sending everything flying. You want to try to break as many of the seals as you can with the tray lid still kind of over all the accessories. And I think we've been successful. Woohoo! Okay, and the first thing I wanted to show off, because I was so curious, you can actually take the breastplate off. Let me show you how it works. I haven't been able to get it all the way off, but I was able to get at least this part detached enough to remove the cape. And the reason I wanted to do that was my particular cape has a little bit of frayed cloth that was sticking out of the shoulder pad before, so I was both curious from the instructions whether this would actually be possible, but also I wanted to go ahead and fix that part of the cape if I could. So hopefully now I can reattach it and it will lay a lot better. There is a little hole in the cape there, you can see, and then that is meant to go over the peg on the breastplate that goes into the chest here. So let's see if we can thread that through. It's a little bit tricky. It's having a hard time. There's just not a lot of room in there. And because the bandolier is not really removable, it's a little bit difficult to get this in there. Obviously, it would be a lot easier if that was removable. There you go. Okay, so I managed to get the breastplate off completely. You can see the situation here is just 4 pegs. And then the cape kind of goes over the one up in the corner, like that. Can I ever get this back on? We're going to do our best. Never dealt with something like this before, but it is nice that you can remove the cape. It makes using the jetpack a bit easier. And it means that the instructions are not showing you something that the figure can't actually do, so that's always a plus. Okay, I've managed to get it back on. I did have to take it off camera for a sec. But just know that basically you've got to thread that top peg through the hole in the cape into the chest, and that is a bit tricky to do. So remove it at your own risk, I would say. Just knowing that it might take some time to get it reattached. But now that I've done it, I like the way that looks a lot better. Go ahead and pop the head back on. When you do get it attached, the breastplate will kind of click into place, so you'll know when you get that click that it's all the way on. All right, now going over the details on these guys, let's go ahead and grab Grogu here. And really, really great representation of this character here. I love the color green. It's more of a like mint green. I feel like some of the previous Grogu figures have veered a little bit too key lime pie for my taste. Canvas clothes with his little collar, the separate piece that does allow the head to kind of move around a bit more. As a result, some really, really good deco on the face. A little bit of blush on the cheeks, those big black hole eyes. A little light pinkish color in the ears. Then he has his little fingernails, also colored with that kind of pinkish orange color. And we'll talk about this feature in a bit when we go over articulation. Spinning around the back, pretty straight up green on the back of the head. The canvas texture and sort of wash detail is continued all the way around the figure, so that's great. And he is teeny tiny. He's like as big as my thumb, maybe a little smaller. You can see he does have 2 little feet sticking out of the bottom. They're on ball joints. And then the toenails are painted on both of those, so that's really cool. Very, very good. And then let's go ahead and bring up the pram here, and we'll talk about the alternate expression. He has this kind of goofy open mouth smiling face here. Very, very nice. And then this body is sitting, so it doesn't have feet sculpted on the bottom, and it just has some nice wrinkles. Same wash, same detail, same texture. Very, very cool. It might look like he has white dots in his eyes, but that's just the light. Those are not actually there. But that's really cool because that's pretty much how his eyes behave in live action as well. So they've managed to capture the finish on those very accurately. Okay, and then let's go ahead and take him out of the pram and we'll show you how that looks. The inside is like this nice sort of leathery brown. There's some sort of control panel it looks like there, but there's no paint on those buttons. I'm not sure if there should be. And then, I don't know, maybe more of a control panel. Maybe this one controls the seat and this one controls the pram. I'm not really sure. Maybe that one's the radio. Some silver and blue trim. And then there's some sort of eggshell white with a little bit of a wash on that to just bring out a little bit of the grooves of the sculpt there. The material is like quite a hard plastic. It's like a model kit kind of plastic. And then this sort of dark gray at the base, I really like. I think this is a really good design for the pram. I like it. It's just kind of a sphere, less of an egg. I think the black base just really makes the colors pop with the silver and the transition to white. And then here you can see the fully closed top with a little bit more detail compared to the open top. It's really nice how they've achieved this sort of telescoping dome with the white, blue, white pattern repeated on the closed and open top versions. The closed one has this additional like yellow stripe here. A little bit of like almost panel lining in these grooves. And then the inside is just straight white. And this just ports on with these 2 little pegs. The instructions do warn that this is delicate, so you want to make sure they're lined up before applying any pressure. And you can just pop it closed like that. And then the best way I've found to remove it is by getting a nice even grip around the outside. And then it just pops right off. And you can actually fit Grogu in there pretty easily. And his seat isn't exactly the same size as the base in there, so it is a little bit of a balancing act. But once you get him situated in a good position, he'll stay pretty well. And then you can actually close it up with him in there for safety. Nice and safe. Okay. Very snug. Probably pretty cozy in there. Maybe a little scary though. The stand is straightforward enough. It's 2 pieces. So it has a base and then a post that plugs into the base. The post has 2 pegs. One is big, one is little. The big one goes in the base and the little one goes in the pram. You just push and hole on the bottom of the pram and push onto the little peg. There you go. Easy enough. And then one other nice feature of the Grogu set. The heads are both compatible with each body, so you can actually swap the expression on either one. So you can just pull up. Be careful not to lose the collar piece. Same for the other standing body. It can be a little tricky to pull it up, and you want to be careful not to push on the ears. And then to attach the other head to the body, same deal. Just thread it through the collar and a little bit of a push and click. Very cool. By far my favorite Grogu that any line has made. He is just like perfectly small, extremely well thought out, well designed, very expressive. And I really like the color. Like I said, the color green here is really, really nice mint green. And it's just, yeah, everything I want in a little guy. So, yeah, very pleased with him. Let's talk about Din here. Now, top to bottom, the metallic color for the armor might be a little darker than we're used to. And I don't actually dislike it. I don't know if it's necessarily like perfectly screen accurate. It might be depending on the scene. Like there's a lot of going around the caves and flying around in space in this show, so depending on the scene, this might be screen accurate. But I think under the lights and everything, it doesn't look too dark or anything to me. I mean, it definitely has a very, very nice metallic shine to it. I think overall, the like size and build is really good. I think the shoulders are appropriately wide for like the armor that he's wearing. We'll get to that. The articulation is really, really good, and from what I've seen, improved over previous SH Figuarts Mando figures. There's still some bits that you might call fiddly. The cloth wired cape, I think, is a huge improvement. Spinning it around to take a look at that, you can see it's this really, really nice sort of canvas black material, and it is sort of intentionally torn across the bottom. It has some tears and holes. Since this is a pretty beat up, action ready cape, I have a little bit of trouble getting it to lay like really against his back part because there's no wire going down the middle or anything to kind of pull it down. But also he has the port for the jetpack on there. I don't know if they could have designed this a little bit differently, like maybe it was just a hole that you could plug up with a piece that would like look flush with the armor. Yeah, I don't love the way they designed this port. It's a little bit clunky. The cape covers it most of the time, but like I said, it does get in the way of making it lay nice and flat. Like you really want it to rest, because fabric doesn't just like poof up on its own unless it's at small scale like this, so it kind of breaks the illusion if it's too poofy in the wrong places. That looks decent. Getting there. It takes a lot of petting. Yeah, I think a lot of people have commented that the armor is too dark, but I don't actually think it's that bad. And I kind of like it, to be honest, so it probably looks darker next to your Hasbro and Mafex, and maybe even some of the previous Figuarts, but I don't think it's necessarily wrong. I think, like, depending on the scene, this armor definitely reads as more of like a dark or tarnished silver. And I think they used up all the chrome on Metal Cooler, so that's probably what happened here. I'm totally joking. Yeah. Very nice details. Let's go top to bottom and run through them here. We've got his helmet, done in that sort of silver, dark silver. And then the glossy black visor. The cape, it's a bit of an experiment, learning curve for me to get it to rest nicely around the collar. I think the wire around the collar itself isn't really doing much, so I'd honestly rather it wasn't there because it just kind of gets in the way. I'm not sure if it does anything as far as like keeping the shape of the collar, but it is there. The bandolier, let's get the lights a little bit more focused here. Yeah, you can see the nice silver details on his belt and bandolier. These shells done in silver pretty cleanly. Repeated on the lower belt. Different silver for the buckle, so that's cool. And then I guess these are thermal detonators maybe. And I think on previous versions, or maybe the Mafex, I forget, these are removable. I haven't tried to remove them, and honestly, I don't really want to. I would never really have him hold them or anything, and I just would rather not lose them. So, I didn't see anything in the instructions about removing them, but if anybody out there has tried it and succeeded, let me know. Got a little fuzz in his elbow there. This cape is a bit of a fuzz magnet. Continuing down the torso, his shirt under the breastplate is this really nice brown, and it has a really nice wash that brings out a lot of detail, especially like in the wrinkles under the arms and things like that. That looks great. Gives him a bit more of a weathered look. I think a lot of people commented that previous Figuarts Mandalorians looked too clean, and I think this one, they've really tried to give him more of a weathered appearance as a result, and I think it comes out really nice. He has this like kind of dusty blue, not really sure what you call that type of undergarment there, but it's pretty cleanly painted over the brown shirt, and then it continues. It's actually two pieces. one on the inner torso there, and then one on the waist. And lifting up his arms, we can spin around the belt. More silver details. Another one matching the belt buckle. That is the hook to store the Darksaber hilt. And then this is actually where the rifle loop ports in. Look at the butt plate. Very nice, protect your butt. You have these darker, like navy blue side flaps. They're on kind of a double hinge. And then they have just a little bit of a like dirty wash in them. Again, really pulling off that sort of grimy look that you'd associate with this character. So that's really, really good, I think. More wash on the brown pants. You can see the detonators. They have the red popped in there. I'm not sure if this little pouch should have a bit of paint right there, but I can see how that might be a little too small to nail. Not sure. But yeah, I really like the wash on the pants and the undershirt. I think that came off really, really good here. Armor on the thighs. Very, very nice. This is like looking extremely tarnished. That's cool. This one a bit cleaner. His kneecaps, knee pads. I have no idea what's going on with these. Everything on his legs is completely different. It's a little bit odd of a costume design. But I think it's correct overall. More navy blue on this knee pad, and then this is some sort of weapon, I believe, with a little hit of silver, another pouch, more shells going all the way around. Not all the way around, but quarter of the way around. This little like chevron knee pad, different socks. This one's got an orange strap, this one's got a brown strap. Kind of a shin guard. I wonder if he's going to get the complete Beskar greaves at some point. He's got the studded leather greaves. He needs to upgrade to the Beskar greaves at some point, right? And then his boots, again, like real patchwork down here. They do match, I think, this time, so that's cool. They both have this sort of like gray patch, grayish blue. And then really nice leathery brown for the rest. And then they've got like a bit of dusty dry brush on them. That looks fantastic. Again, I think this is Figuarts really taking the feedback of thinking the Mando looks a little too clean to heart. And giving us a more... and coming up with a more screen accurate, less idealized representation, and I love it. I think it looks fantastic. Yeah, this Mando's been hanging around with Carl Weathers. A Mudhorn insignia on this pauldron, and then just a plain pauldron on the left arm. Both, again, with that lovely, lovely metallic finish. The sleeves we kind of talked about, and then his gauntlets. Doesn't have any accessories for them this time around, but they're really, really nicely painted and detailed. Just take a look at that. That's really good. I love that kind of sci-fi design. And his hands, this is another thing I think this figure had over the Mafex. I thought they got his fingers like really orange, and it looked a bit odd. I don't know if maybe that's accurate, but it just looked too orange to me. These read as a little bit more light brown. And they blend in with the rest of the costume a little bit better. But then on the back, there's of course this sort of white, off-white, dirty, grimy again. Really cool. weathered with these blue triangles, and that just so happens to match the pram perfectly. One additional detail that really ties these two together, and I love that. Really cool. Alright, and then as you saw, you can take the cloak off. You can do it to use the jetpack, you can do it just to reposition it if it comes out a little wonky, but do take care and be patient putting it back on. It's going to be a little bit of a chore, but for me it's totally worth it. I was really not liking the way that the cape laid over his shoulder here. It was just sticking out with this frayed bit, and now I've been able to hide that so much better. It just looks so clean. Very happy with it now. And yeah, I think that's about it. Not too much paint on the back of the bandolier. And yeah, let's go over how we can swap on some of his accessories. So Mando here is armed to the teeth and really outfitted with the accessories. There are a couple of omissions here that I do want to call out just in case you're looking for those on your particular Mando figure. Number one, there is no unmasked Din Djarin head or Pedro Pascal likeness. If you're looking for that, the Mafex does include that, and I think the Season 2 Figuarts has that. I'm not too invested in Mando without the helmet though, so that one's okay for me. And then the other item that you might be looking for is the Beskar spear. That's also not included here, but I'm happy with the Darksaber as the melee weapon of choice for this season. So he doesn't have a vibroblade like the Black Series Glavis Ringworld Mando. He also doesn't have any of the effect parts that the Mafex has, which include the Whistling Bird Trail accessory, and I think that one also maybe has like a flamethrower for one of the other wrists, or for the other wrist. So the wrist effects are not present on this one. But what you do get, let's go ahead and go over, starting with this piece, which fell off very early on, and I've just left it off because it is a bit of a pain. And this is the holster for his blaster. And you can see it just has this little tiny socket on a sort of rotating hinge piece. And that little socket pegs onto his belt. It doesn't stay firmly attached as well as I would like. It does hinge up and out of the way, but it's more likely to fall off if you try to move something around it. As far as like gluing it on, you could. I wouldn't want to though, because then I wouldn't have the option to remove it if I needed to or wanted to for whatever reason. So I'm just going to live with it. Probably get used to posing this guy and then putting it on if I want it there. But yeah, I don't know if that's a thing on everybody's or if it's supposed to be glued and it just came loose on mine. But anyhow, that is the easiest armament to store. Let's take a look at his blaster and then we'll store it on him. It's in a really nice gunmetal gray, bright silver towards the nose here, brown and some more silver around the grip. Really cool, nicely detailed. Does not have any blast effect, and I was curious, but you definitely can't peg the jetpack effect in there. The peg is too big and there's not really much of a hole there, so I'm not sure. You might be able to just get some like sticky effects that just stick on the ends of guns, and that would work out okay if you're looking for a blast. Slots into the holster at his side, and the holster, you can see it just rests in there, and There's no clip or anything that goes over it to worry about. The holster is again this brown with a little bit of dust weathering on there. Let's look at the Cycler rifle next. Pretty delicate feeling, especially at the tip here. You got your gunmetal silver, your bright silver, your goldish sort of bronze accents all popped in there. Really cool. The stock has this really nice brown leathery finish. And then sort of a black barrel and your silver muzzle. Yeah. Very, very nice piece, but like I said, pretty delicate feeling, so do be careful with it. To store it on Mando, you get 2 special storage accessories, which I've seen on prior Figuarts Mandos, so I don't think anything is different here. But you get this like alternate midsection that's attached to a bandolier strap. I'll show you how to put that on. Then, additionally, you have this little loop, sort of studded leather, goes over the belt. Okay, it's kind of a 3-step process, and so step 1 is going to be attaching the bandolier strap. To do that, you've got to remove this little tiny square piece that is embedded in the strap. The instructions helpfully tell you to not lose this little tiny plug. So, yeah, don't lose it. I'd recommend keeping track of it, in fact. It'd be nice if they gave you somewhere to store it so that you were a little bit assisted in that matter. But now this piece replaces where that was plugged in, so not too bad. Go ahead and port that into the bandolier, and now he has this midsection of the rifle going around the back. Easy enough. Go ahead and plug the belt loop. Okay, there you go. So you're most of the way there when you've got it like this. I would say this is step 1. Get the storage pieces attached. Now step 2. You got to disassemble your rifle. To do that, I recommend grabbing the midsection. Do not push on this scope. It's very small and will likely break if you do. So pull. When you get a grip on the nose, on the barrel, do it like around this silver part, as close to the midsection as you can, and just pull it apart. And then same for the stock. This midsection piece you can set aside where you don't need it for storing. There's actually one more place where the rifle comes apart, and it's at the scope here, so that makes this easier. All right, so 4 parts total make up your rifle. You've got the barrel, the scope, the middle piece, and the stock. Cool? All right, so we're going to break down the rifle again one more time. So remove the stock, remove the barrel, remove the scope, set the middle section aside. I'm going to go ahead and put this belt loop back on him. Okay, easy enough that time. I'm going to twist it a little bit so it's kind of at an angle, and then you can just take the barrel, thread it up through that. Let's see, which way is it going to go? going to go kind of to the side like that, I think, with the skinny part of the barrel going up to the top. I think this is one of those, I'm going to need 3 hands for this type of accessories. And then the stock goes on like that. That's not too bad. I was expecting a lot worse. And then, of course, the blaster. Go ahead and reattach that one. Okay, I don't think he can really wear the jetpack when he's got this slung across. Yeah, it's going to get in the way. So I wouldn't try the jetpack and the rifle at the same time. But one last piece that does fit is the Darksaber hilt, which just has this little loop on the end of it. And it's really, really a cool piece. In the light here, you can see it actually has like some metallic blue in the hilt section. This is the unignited one, so there is no blade and there's no way to attach a blade. This is meant purely for handling an unignited saber and storing on his belt via the loop. And the loop just goes over this little hook a little bit more naturally, kind of. Yeah, once you get it all the way on, you can work with it a little bit. Feels a little bit delicate to store it that way, and now I can feel the kneecap is coming off. What's going on with that? I think it is just supposed to be pegged in there. Yeah, if the kneecap pops out, you can just push it back in, no problem. All right, and we are decked out, ready for action. Let's get one more. This thing. Okay. This is the biggest hassle for me so far. As far as attaching hands, you can just pop them on and off pretty easily. The tensions on these are really nice. There we go. And so this is the smaller circle grip hand, and it's meant for holding this canister. It's pretty much a straight silver tube with a little indentation at the tip. And this is what he stores the living water in, or whatever they call it, the water of life, living water. Very precious substance. Gets him back into his cult. Pretty effective. Let's go ahead and cycle through holding some of the weapons now, I think. We'll do articulation, and then we'll wrap things up. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and disassemble our Mando here, get him back into his vanilla mode. Take his little water of life canister. And let's see. We're going to go ahead and remove the Darksaber hilt. Set that aside. There goes the blaster. And then to disassemble the stored rifle, just pull the barrel off. That slides out pretty easily then. That would probably be the best way to assemble it. First, actually put these two pieces on and then just pop the barrel in. Next time I'll do that. That comes out nicely. Take the stock. Oof. Tight one there. Take the scope. Careful not to push on the scope. And then we've got our old middle piece here. Go ahead and put it back together. These pieces are keyed, so they do only go together one way. So you may have to experiment. And it's, of course, the third way that you attempt that is always correct. Okay, and then very important, our little square. We were very careful not to lose this, and now, you know what, I'm not sure which way it goes, and I don't know if it matters. There you go, that just pops in. All right. Let's go ahead and get him holding, posed up holding the rifle. To do that, we're going to swap on some rifle holding hands. I think the easiest way is start out with the gripping hand on the rifle itself. And so for that, there are two sets of like trigger grip hands. For the rifle, you want the one with the more elongated index finger, this one. And you can see the width of the grip is a little bit larger. And it's meant to go over the stock. I am worried about paint rubbing off when doing this though, because I can already see some of the browns starting to chip away there. So I don't like that very much. They could have like molded this part in brown instead. It is a separate piece after all. Let's see, simplify things. Let's just talk about the stock and the hand. I think the best way to do this hand is not very pliable. A little bit maybe. But we're gonna need to basically slide it over the top. Hopefully not rub the paint off. There's not really anything you can do but hope at that point. Spread the fingers a little bit. I don't know. This makes me nervous. I don't like when figures make me nervous, so. His fingers are curling up under it, so what I need is really something in there to just like poke them out. The final step is to get the trigger, the finger in the trigger there, if you so desire. I suppose if a little bit of paint rubs off, it's not the end of the world. There is a fair amount of weathering on this figure, so it won't stick out or anything, but I'll know it's there. Okay. There we go. That gives you an idea how he's supposed to hold the rifle. And then you can just peg this hand. Pretty easy. Actually, probably better to do it, yeah, without attaching this part first. The more you can avoid applying pressure to the barrel or anywhere near the barrel, the better. It is, like I said, pretty thin and fragile feeling. I think this is where the two different relaxed sets of hands come in. I think one is genuinely like a relaxed pair. And then, so this one I think is more actual relaxed hand. And then this one is more for holding the barrel of the rifle. It has more of a intentional grip. So I think that's the difference between those two. I don't know. They could maybe get away with just one pair that's a little in between these, but I appreciate the, again, extreme attention to detail. Ooh, he does a great job looking up. We'll get to the articulation pretty soon here, but let's go ahead and get him sort of perched up. Let's see if we can get him to look down the barrel like he's got his eyes on something. Grogu, don't look so happy about it. Let's go ahead and borrow a rock here for a second. There we go. That looks pretty good, if I say so myself. This is just target practice. It's not any living creatures at the other end of the barrel, so that's why Grogu's just very happy about it. Not my favorite accessory of the bunch. Probably the least essential of his weapons for me. But it is a nice piece. It's very, very pretty. Just a little bit delicate and a little bit complex. Now we saw that the other pair of trigger finger hands is a little bit smaller. That one's for his blaster. Handle of the blaster just goes in there, and that fits pretty nicely. Good grip on that one. Let's just give him kind of a run and gun sort of pose here. Just want to give it a little scrunch. Capes, you just kind of gotta encourage them to go the right way, and they kind of do the rest on their own. Let's see, I bet I can get him to balance on one foot like this. He's very sturdy. Very good sturdy figure. Nice and stable joints. Pretty smooth, honestly. Seems like a good time for Grogu to be nice and safe, tucked away in the pram. There we go. And try the other relaxation hand on him. Nice thing about this Grogu is this face, it looks happy, but you change his ears and he can also be like kind of scared or yelling. I think that looks pretty good. You always protect. Yeah, I like the blaster. It's a little bit more versatile than the rifle. But if things really get up close and personal, fisticuffs, well, that's when we break out the secret weapon. Darksaber here. I'm not sure if it comes apart. It doesn't feel like it will. So I think it actually just slides over each hand. Yep, through the grip, nice and easy. And this is definitely my favorite weapon for him. I think it is just a really cool design in general, but also sword fighting in Star Wars just go hand in hand. And here I want to show the Darksaber in detail, but before I do, I will point out I've had one casualty playing with Mandalorian here. Belt loop on the end of the ignited Darksaber. Not a critical piece since you can't store it ignited anyways, but a little bit bothered by that. It would have been nice if this was just like an actual metal ring. You wouldn't have this problem, so that might have been a better design choice there. It's meant to go like that, but yeah, taking it out of his hand, it was very easy to just pull it straight through the hand and this to catch on one of the fingers, and I think it just fell off doing that, and somehow I managed to find it before it descended into the underworld of the carpet, so lucky that. But the Darksaber here has some really, really cool details. I'm going to get nice and close so you can see there is, again, the blue, metallic blue on the hilt. There would normally be a silver ring on the end. Then on, what do you call this part? Glossy dark gray on the crossguard piece. And then all along the blade there is this really, really cool crackling silver effect. There is a bit of translucency to the blade itself. You can see around the edges, so you do actually get that, which is really awesome. But yeah, that looks sick. Really, really cool. And then there is, of course, the like filled in black center. Very essential for the Darksaber. So, yeah. Unfortunately, do need to be careful taking this in and out of his grip hand. that ring will very easily snag. Alright, and the final set of accessories are for Mando's jetpack. I don't know if is his jetpack made of Beskar? It matches his Beskar pretty well, but not sure if that's supposed to be that way. Anyhow, not really a good idea to use a jetpack and a cape, but I don't want to take the cape off again. So just to show you, it plugs in on this Nevada. Boba Fett made it work, right? Maybe his cape is made of Kevlar or something. We'll go with that. But yeah, that looks pretty cool. Boosters are on keyed pegs, which is a little unfortunate. I wish they were on ball joints so you could get a little bit of swivel action on them. But they only go straight in and out, unfortunately. And then these blast effects plug in to the bottoms of them. Probably the best way to do this is to plug the effect into the booster, and then the booster into the jetpack. That worked out pretty well. And yeah, there you go. How well does he get into a flight pose? Well, he can look up pretty well. And then at the torso, give him a little extra tilt. Problem is, of course, if you're wearing a jetpack to fly, that is connected to your torso. So you're bound to do what I just did and knock it off. Let's see, I think they kind of fly with their hands back like this. And the effects are a translucent plastic with a little bit of yellow in them. Okay, now let's go ahead and run through articulation on, starting with our little Grogu here. Now, a note, the seated body is exactly the same articulation, except for it does not have any feet. It is a solid, closed-in bottom. But the arms, the neck, ears, which we'll talk about, are all articulated the same on each. First up, we have really one of the selling points for me for this set, the articulated ears on Grogu. That is just genius. It's such a critical part of his character and how he emotes. And they are a little bit light on tension. This ear on this head likes to flop, and then I think the same ear on the other head also likes to flop a little bit. But you can get it to hold its position really well. You just might have to fiddle with it a little bit, but I love this idea. Very nice. Next, the neck is just a ball going into the torso, but it does afford you pretty good range. There's down, there's up, side to side swiveling, and then here is tilt, tilt. And so you can see all the way around, and that collar just is floating between the neck, or between the torso and the head around the neck. And so it moves with the head, which is pretty nice. And then each of his arms is on kind of the same type of joint as the wrists on Mando. It's a swivel ball peg combo joint. And so the ball peg gives you a little bit of wiggle in the socket, which is amazing. That they've got sort of that amount of nuance posing in such a small figure, but you know, that's what that ball can do, even at this scale, so that's really cool. They swivel around on the ball, of course, and then they hinge up and down. Max range on the hinge going up, I guess, is about that much. Which is nice. And not really butterfly action across the body, but kind of to be expected with those little teeny arms. And then the wrists are just ball joints, basically shrunk versions of the joint at the neck. And so those can swivel around in there, but also flex up and down, in and out. Very cool. And then finally, the feet are also on ball joints. And so those can swivel and rock around on that. So you can even get them into kind of a leaping pose. Let's see. That's pretty cute. Boing. Okay. And that is Grogu. Pretty nice. I love this, honestly. We'll go ahead and run through Mando's articulation next. He has a couple unusual things to point out, and then a few specialty joints, as I usually will call them. But starting with the cape, it does have a good amount of like flex. You can make it go pretty much straight up like he's falling. Anywhere in between that and pulled back down. I do find it a little bit tricky to get it to hang straight down. It just likes to kind of puff out around the middle here. Probably see it better from this side. Looks out really well. Maybe even a little past 45 degrees there, so very good. Oops, okay, well you can see his neck is just a barbell joint and then another ball peg going into the torso at the base of the neck. Looking down is a little bit challenging. He kind of runs into the cape, but also just seems to hit kind of a limit in how far his neck can go. So that's not great, especially for somebody who comes with a little companion like this. With his torso, he looks up even further. That is a really good amount of arching back. His strap does kind of bulge out at the front a little bit there. But like, arms almost at 45 on their own, and then head gets him the rest of the way, so that's good. Not as much as I'd like going down or forward. And the reason it's not as much as I'd like is like, how far does he have to be standing from Grogu to look at him? Maybe that. Maybe get away with that. Like, there's his eye line and then his eyes look down. You get the waist involved. And that's okay. Okay, one last joint while he's like this. The elbow joints, you've probably noticed, don't straighten all the way. And that's one of the little quirks that bugs me a little bit. It's just kind of due to the sculpt of this elbow pad that finishes out the shirt, the undershirt. It looks good. And he gets incredibly good range. Closed position, past 135. In the closed position, that's like a 150 degree bend. It just has that quirk that his arm doesn't straighten all the way. He has a bicep swivel that's really nicely hidden right under the shirt sleeve. He actually does have a little bit of gauntlet swivel, but I'm not sure if that's intentional. But it is there just as a result of that being a separate piece. Swivel hinges, swivel hinge ball peg combo joints at the wrist. Let you pose the hand up, down, in, out, whatever you want. So that's really good. That's a good amount of range in. Not so much out because of the glove. That much down, that much up. Tilt in the neck, which is fairly good. Tilt at the torso joint. He has two ball joints in there, it seems. Most of the tilt seems to come from the top one. And then, of course, he gets some swiveling on there. And when he swivels, the belt, bandolier are separate. So it actually rotates out of the way, no problem. He does hit a limit about there. These hip plates are on double hinges. So they get way up and out of the way, no problem. The hips are kind of a 2.0 Figuarts style hip, but they're pretty well done here. As far as front to back range, they get just a little under 90 degrees forward. And not too much going back because he has a butt sculpt. Thigh swivel goes all the way around. I wouldn't push it past 90 degrees. Going up to the side, the hips kick out really well, and you can see that hip plate getting up and out of the way. That's really good. And there's what the hip joint looks like on the inside. And then we get to the other quirk in the construction of this figure, which is his legs don't go any closer together than this, and they're a bit bowed. Maybe to compensate. It's almost like they just peg into the thigh at the wrong angle. The knee is a really nice double hinge. Looks pretty good. A little bit shiny, but that's just because they use harder plastics for hinges and things like that. The curious thing, they didn't do the same as the elbow, where just the inner part of the hinge is the shiny plastic. But on the knee, the whole thing is the shiny plastic, so that's a little unusual. I wonder if that's because these have to peg in, because he does have these 2 knee pads. No upper boot swivel, but he has fantastic ankle joints, which do incorporate a swivel. So he kind of has 2 different boot designs, but the engineering at the ankles is the same between them. Starting out with this floating cuff. Under that, there is a really awesome, like, Naruto-style ball hinge ankle. And then it also has something I saw on the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which is like this little sock around the joint that just hides it a little bit better. But they get pretty awesome range going up, and then with the toe hinge, and going down. Very, very good. Very nice. That is like perfect ankle forward, backward movement. And then really good tilt to the side. Widest stance with feet flat on the floor is going to be pretty impressive. The shoulder joint is interesting. It's kind of a rocker style butterfly joint, so I think there's a ball socket going into the torso. This shoulder is pegged into that, and then there is another ball hinge that gives you the swivel movement, the hinging as well, and a little bit of upper arm swivel in addition to the lower bicep swivel. And that's nice because it gives you the ability to kind of position the shoulder pad precisely, irrespective of what the lower arm is doing. Let's see. And then the shoulder pad is on a ball hinge as well. And so it gets like rotation on the ball, and then hinges in and out to give you like really good clearance for lifting the arm. So you can get it pretty much anywhere in between there. And so that works nicely. Yeah, pretty great shoulder design there. And then as far as his like butterfly joint, he can get into a very nice two-handed Darksaber pose. Good stuff. I like that. I like a really functional butterfly joint. And it doesn't quite get all the way around his armor out as well. And that gets you all the way to there, which is phenomenal for someone with armor that is like not letting you cut into the chest at all. So that's really good. I think they've done a really good job engineering that around the hard cut of the armor, where it still looks very cohesive and still has a very functional butterfly joint. Now, as far as A pose, you can actually get a little bit of tilt out of the shoulders going up. Not enough to bring the hands together, but at least enough to go straight up. So that's pretty nice. What I'm really looking for is over the hand or over the head saber grip. That's not too bad. Like I said, a lot of the reason I got this set was the Grogu, but I'm pretty impressed with this Mando after really giving him a deep dive. we'll do a scale comparison, and then we'll wrap things up with some poses, alright? And for a scale comparison, here is the Mandalorian Luke, also from SH Figuarts. My expectation is that he would be a little bit shorter than Mando, and so that fits. And here's the Figuarts Mandalorian and Grogu with the Star Wars Black Series Ahsoka from Mandalorian and Ahsoka. There's the Vintage Collection Yoda to see how he scales next to Grogu. His head's maybe a little bit small, but the height's pretty good, I think. And just for fun, a couple of other figures that I have nearby. It's the always sassy Black Series B1 Battle Droid, and Jada Toys Fei Long from their Street Fighter II line, and a couple more Armored Boys from SH Figuarts. On the left, the Super Saiyan Trunks, the sort of remastered version from 2023, and on the right, the Guts Berserker armor from Berserk. Why is the Mandalorian fighting with Luke Skywalker, you might ask? This could be saber training for Grogu. Maybe imagine that Luke and Mando team up to train Grogu in both the ways of Mandalore and the ways of the Jedi. Or you could just say this is Luke Skywalker. Luke, with two U's, of course, is Luke's evil clone. Yeah, this looks sick. And whenever Mando gets in over his head, Grogu will always be there to bail him out of trouble because he's a good little guy. There you have it. This has been an in-depth look at SH Figuarts, Grogu, and Mandalorian from Season 3. I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.